Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my introduction to property for beginners. So thank you to everyone that's joined us this evening. If you're watching this on video, my thanks again for watching it by video. And it's designed for everybody that's interested in property, whether you're in property and you want to expand your business, whether you are thinking about property, whether it's something that hasn't crossed your mind, or whatever the case is. This is just a very brief and basic introduction to property. Over the coming weeks, I will be going further in depth with obviously the theories and the strategies that I'm discussing in tonight's tutorial webinar. Without further ado, I just want to introduce myself very briefly. My name is Ben Hollingsworth. I've been involved in property, well, it says here 25 plus years. I'm not 25 years old, guys. I'm actually 48, and I was the son of a chartered surveyor, so I was pretty much, my childhood was spent going around factories, offices, shops, industrial units. It's something that I was born into. In my teens, when I left school, I decided that education had done its service for me. I decided that I'd get a job in car sales because I wanted a nice car, but that only lasted a few years. I really enjoyed it, but only lasted a few years because, of course, I was kind of thinking to myself, well, the sort of people that are buying nice cars aren't car salespeople. So I looked at other opportunities, and it suddenly came to me one day. It kind of grounded to me. Well, I've got a good experience of property. I've probably got a pretty good knowledge level somewhere back in my brain from the childhood. Why don't I try property? So I traveled down to West London. I trained as an estate agent. I covered Ealing, Acton, and Chiswick, and really, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I've really enjoyed myself. Sold some fantastic houses, met some fantastic people, and built long-term relationships with some great investors and some wonderful property people that not only motivated and inspired me, but also showed me the way forward. I returned to my hometown, Newport in South Wales, got experience in estate agency, auctions, property finance. Latterly, I founded my investment consultancy, which is a business where we source properties for investors mainly outside the area. We've got a lot of investors in the southeast of England, London, home counties. We've also got investors from as far afield as places like the Netherlands and even South Africa. So that's gone from strength to strength. I mean, you see a lot of property sources out there now. A lot of them are very newly established. We've been established for over 10 years. So we've built long-term relationships with our routes to market, such as estate agencies and auctioneers. Plus, we've got a really good bank of credible investors on board. In later years as well, I co-owned and I was director of Wales' largest independent estate agency. It was our family business and really enjoyed that. But at the end of the day, it took me away from my core business, which is my investment consultancy. And latterly, for the past 6 years, I've been training, coaching, and mentoring people in property strategies. And to be honest with you, this is the most rewarding job ever. I shouldn't really call it a job because to me, it's my hobby that I do get paid for. And I absolutely love it. People say, well, you work Saturdays, you work during... I love it. You know, I don't like playing golf. I don't like going to the gym. So those things that people do for free, I actually get paid for what I enjoy doing, which is absolutely wonderful. I put my heart and my soul in it. It's my passion, basically. So my mentoring and my online training platform that Luke, who's on the webinar with us today, my partner Luke here, has been instrumental in developing not only the school platform, but we're also developing a really, really exciting online training platform as well, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. That will be rolled out over the coming weeks. But as members of the school platform, you will be the first to see what we've got, and you will indeed be the ones to trial it, test it, and get, above all, the special offers from us. So that's really, really important for us over the coming weeks. Everybody's got a reason why, and what I want to know, we'll talk about this in the question and answer session afterwards, is your reason why. Why are you on this webinar tonight when you could be watching Netflix, you could be down the pub, you could be at the gym, you could be walking across a mountain somewhere? Why are you here with us tonight? And don't get me wrong, I'm so glad you're here. And there's no place that I'd rather be talking about my passion, which is property. So many people are interested in property investing. And there's a number of different reasons why. Now, yours can be completely unique to you, but I'm just going to give you a few examples of what my mentees and my people I've been coaching and training over the past 6 years have told me. And some of them want the financial freedom. Some of them want the wealth building. Some of them want a retirement income, something to leave to the children, the next of kin, succession. Some people just want to quit their job. They hate their job, and that's sad. I hate that. When I see these people on Facebook and they're ecstatic on a Friday, they're suicidal by Sunday, and Wednesday is hump day. Don't waste your life. If you don't like your job, you're wasting your life. So change, and only you can change. But you've taken the big and the bold step by standing on this webinar tonight to see what we can offer in the form of opportunities in property. You might be looking for a career change, and indeed a lot of people want to be the master of their own destiny. They want to start their own business. All these things are available to every single one of you watching this webinar live or on video. They're all open to you, because if I can do it, I left school without any qualifications. If I can do it, absolutely anyone can do it. It's not difficult. All I'd say with property investing and property development is you need to know what you're doing. So the correct guidance, the correct coaching, the correct education is really, really important, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with high ticket items. So we need to get it right from the start. And if you come with me on my journey, you can learn from the very costly mistakes that I've made in the past. So just have a couple of seconds now to think about what is your reason why. Why are you on here today? Why are you thinking about property? What do you want to do? Whilst I sip from the largest cup of coffee ever. It's keeping me going after a busy Monday. There's a few strategies in property that I want to talk to you about today, two basic ones. There's lots and lots of strategies in property. If you've watched YouTube videos, if you've been on Instagram or any of the social media platforms, if you've been on Facebook, if you've been Googling strategies, you're probably a bit baffled. It's almost like, where do I start? There's so many strategies out there. I mean, I can start naming them now, but I'd run out of time. I've looked into, over the past years, I've looked into every single strategy I believe. There's some that I like, some that I dislike. And in time, I'll be going through the pros and the cons with you and explaining to you why I like certain strategies and why I dislike other strategies. And also, I can give you case studies of success we've had with strategies, or we can look at strategies that simply haven't worked because of specific reasons. The two basic strategies that I want to talk to you about this evening are property flipping and the BRR method. How many of you on this program tonight know what BRR stands for? Yeah, some of you not. Okay, it's really simple. It's buy, refurbish, and refinance. So what we're doing is we're buying a property, perhaps an ugly duckling. We're going to refurbish it into a beautiful swan, and we're going to refinance it. So we're buying it at a low level. We're spending money, yes, on the refurbishment program, but we're adding value. So we're able to refinance it at market value, and that gives us a massive edge. On the BRR principle, that will give us the equity we need in that property to take most, if not all, of our money back out. And also on flipping, that will give us our margin, our profit margin in there. So they're the two strategies that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. Now, if we look at the first one, flipping properties. I love flipping properties. It's such good fun. You've got to suss out the opportunities. You've got to have a look at what your target market is. You've got to find the right property in the right place at the right price. Disregard what estate agents or auctioneers are asking for properties. You've got to go and find opportunities. So you've got to look for properties that are in need of refurbishment. It's no good if they don't need anything doing to them. They're on the open market. They'll sell to somebody else. They'll sell to a first-time buyer. They'll sell to a home mover. We want to find properties that stink, properties that we're afraid to be in because they're that bad. Now, nothing structural, nothing sinister, but we need properties that require refurbishment, because we can then refurbish them using our systems and our methods, our blueprint, if you like. We can refurbish these properties and we can add massive value on top of the spend. And that's going to be our profit margin. So when we're looking for these properties, we need to look at specific areas and choose your target area. Now, flipping properties works the world over. I've watched properties of people doing it in North America. I've watched programs of people doing it in Asia. You know, it works all over the world. But my specialization is my hometown and the surrounding area. So I'm talking really generically here about South East Wales. And that's really important to me because I know the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know the hotspots, and I know the places to choose and the places to avoid. Now, if we look at Newport, for example, everyone goes, "Oh, I've been to Newport City Centre." I know you have. But it's not that bad in the surrounding areas because of the communication networks around Newport. There's fantastic opportunities. Every town, every village, every hamlet that we're looking at for flipping opportunities, we've got to assess the area. We've got to look at the demographics of that area. We've also got to look at the transport links. They're very, very important. We've got to get a feel for the area. Would you be a homeowner in this area? When we first of all look at demographics, that will tell us what percentage of people are homeowners in this area. Because if we're looking at an area where the properties are cheap and we think there's massive opportunity, but there's very, very low home ownership, we are going to struggle to sell that property. Because when we're flipping properties, we're looking for maximum return, maximum margin. And if we're looking at one of those areas that is very unpopular, the chances are we'll only be able to sell out to another investor. And guess what? They're not buying with their heart, they're buying with their head. So they're going to want to give you the lowest possible price. So we need to find areas that have got a good demographic of home ownership, places where people desire to live and want to buy houses. Typically, let's look at an area that's got good road links. It's got a railway station nearby. It's a thriving little town and it looks nice. It's got a good feel when you travel there. That's probably going to be a good area for flipping properties. In Wales, just to give you a stat breakdown, we have 1.5 million homes and 451,000 of those are rental properties. So as a nation in general, Wales, we have 66% home ownership, just over, and 33% private rental stock. So I'll come to the private rental stock when we talk about BRR, but when we're looking at flipping properties, we need to be in one of the areas that's a hotspot for people buying properties. Where would you want to buy a property as a home mover? Or think back those years ago when you were a first-time buyer. Where would be your chosen area? Think about what the area looks like, what the local amenities are like, what the road transport, the bus, the train links are like. Just have a second to think about your target areas. Have you thought about that before? With flipping property, we're adding value with refurbishments, and it's something that everybody could do. A lot of my training is based around systemization, because many years ago when I did my first flip, it was an absolute catastrophe. I won't lie, it was terrible. I did one flip and it was like a full-time 24/7 overtime job for me. I was literally driving around in circles, running around all day, chasing my tail all day. And why? The reason was simple. I didn't have a system in place. Fast forward all these years now, and 2018, I did 13 flips. That's 13 individual property flips. I did them myself. I didn't do the work myself. Obviously, I project managed 13 of my own individual flips, plus running the investment consultancy too. And it was the easiest year ever. And the reason is because I had a system in place and I knew what I was doing. As part of our training, we will be going through the system and the blueprint, because that is vital if you want to start your business, be effective, maximize your profit, and above all, if you want to scale your business. That is super important. So many people that have been with me have been able to start their journey. Let's take, for example, Aaron Jones, mentee of mine. He's now a good friend. He's done 2 flip projects. His advantage is he is a building contractor. But everybody says, well, that's easy. Well, it's not, because that's only one component of the whole process. Aaron had done many, many refurbishments for property investors and people flipping properties, but he simply didn't know where to start himself. He knew how to do the refurbishment. Great, that's a massive, massive value add. But he didn't know where to start. So he came on the mentorship program with me, and I taught him the blueprint and the system, which enabled him to not only use his building skills when doing the refurbishment, it enabled him to find the right property in the right place for the right price. Because guess what, guys? Everything we do in this business is more or less a fixed price opportunity, okay? Now, when we buy a property to flip, let's just say we buy a property in a specific area to flip. We've done our due diligence. We've done our research, all part of the system. We know what we're going to get for that property when we sell it. And that figure's got to be right. Because even if we have a first-time buyer or a home mover who is wowed by the refurbishment that we've done, if we overprice it, even if they agree to pay our overprice, as soon as they have a mortgage survey done, the valuation is going to pull that down to where it should need to be. So if we start from the end and we look at the end value, the refurbished price of the property, that is always going to be pretty much, we can top it a little bit, but within surveyors' 5% guidelines, that's going to be a fixed cost. Our refurb, now we can get great deals on trade supplies and tradespeople. Yes, we can. And that's all available on the system too. But ultimately, a day's labor costs what it costs. A boiler costs what it costs. A bag of plaster costs what it costs. So our refurb is more or less a fixed cost. Then when we come to things like selling the property, professional fees, estate agency fees, legal fees, they're all fixed costs. When we come to buying the property, the land transaction tax, or stamp duty as people commonly call it, it's called land transaction tax in Wales because of course we have to be different. We've got the Welsh Assembly government. I'm not getting political, guys. I'm not going down that route tonight. But yeah, land transaction tax and legal costs, the costs of purchasing, these are all fixed costs. So pretty much down the line, it's all fixed costs. What's the variable? The variable is the purchase price. And your profit is made, your deal is done when you purchase the property. So we've got to purchase the right property in the right place, but at the right price. And this is so important. On my training, I detail about how we look for properties. I mentioned it earlier. What we're looking for is we're looking for target properties. So we've chosen the area. We've looked at what sort of properties we want to buy, and we're going to go and see them. It doesn't matter what the asking price is because we're going to do our own calculation, our own due diligence, and we're going to come up with a spreadsheet. Again, that's on our training. This spreadsheet will start from the end and work backwards, and ultimately, at the end of it, it will tell us what we are able to offer on that property to make our prescribed margin. Really, really important. Aaron followed the blueprint. He followed the system, and he's now done 2 really successful projects by himself. So everything else around it, and the 3 difficulties people face are finding the property, dealing with the refurbishment, and finding money. He had the refurbishment licked, so I dealt with the other two problems, if you like. I dealt with those with him individually. He's conquered them. He's sussed them. He is well on his way. And Joey said to me, he said, I love this project because I'm doing it for myself. He said, I'm fed up of making other people money. I'm actually doing this for myself. So he's not only giving himself work and his guys work, his tradespeople, his subcontractors work, he's also making a massive profit himself from flipping properties. So really great. That was actually in, I've seen a few properties during my lifetime. Albion Avenue in Blackwood. That particular one was there with him hiding behind the door there. That's fantastic. So yes. Now, if we move on from flipping properties, let's have a look at the BRR method. Now, this may all be a bit new to you, but don't worry. With time, it will all come to you. This is where we buy, we refurbish, and instead of selling for a profit, we actually refinance. So we keep the property. Okay. Now, this is a really, really good system because the BRR system is a great way to build your property portfolio and give yourself a future, and I hate the word, but I'm going to use it, passive income. What's passive income? Passive income is, as some people will describe, an income which you don't have any input to. Now, in reality, this is not really passive income because you still have to have a little bit of input, but it's marginal. Passive income to me would be something like if you wrote a Christmas #1 single 20 years ago and you had no input to it whatsoever, but you receive a royalty check every Christmas when it's becoming a hit once again, year after year after year. That to me is passive income. With property, it's never going to be passive. But let's say, for example, we set up a buy-to-let property today and we have all of our associated professional services in place. So we've leveraged everything, down to the fact that we have a fantastic property manager. Now, as that property is ticking over, the tenants in there, they're paying the mortgage and the bills each month. The property is growing in value and our equity is actually growing. The minimal amount of work that we have to do, and we have to do this to ensure that our business runs smoothly. we've just got to make sure that the letting agent is doing their job properly. We've got to make sure that our monthly statements are as they should be. And we've got to make sure that obviously we are paying the bills as we should be. But that is literally minutes out of a 31-day month. So let's have a look at the BRR system. Now, traditionally, if you were to buy turnkey buy-to-let properties, so let's say you go into a new build development, you think, right, I'll buy this property here, it's £200,000, and I'll rent it out. That's a great idea. Minimal input from you, but are you getting the best out of it? Because by the time you look at a buy-to-let mortgage, that's a 75% loan-to-value mortgage. So first of all, your deposit's going to be 50,000 quid. Then you're going to have to pay land transaction tax. And on 200 grand, guys, that's £8,000. Then you're going to have to pay legal costs. Then you're going to have to pay these side costs on it. So all of a sudden, this is mounting up, and we're well into 50 grand. So that's 50 grand of your hard-earned money is being locked into this property. Yes, it is going to grow in value, but being a new build, not for a while, it's not going to have capital appreciation straight away because they're going to be building phase number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So your property is not going to grow for a very long time. So why not look at it this way? Let's look at the same kind of property that we were looking at for our flipping project. So we're going to look for an ugly duckling, and we're going to buy that ugly duckling, and we're going to convert it into the beautiful swan. We're going to pay, obviously, for the property, and we're going to pay for the refurb. Now, you can bridge this, and there's cross-charge bridging. Remind me, send me a message if you want to know more about cross-charge bridging, because that is the amber nectar of property investment and development. Cross-charge bridging. So you can finance the cost of buying your project, and you can finance your soft costs like your land transaction tax, your legal cost, and you can also leverage upon the refurbishment too. So it's really easy to do. So we buy this ugly duckling, we turn it into a swan. We've also added value, which if we sold it as a flip, that would be our profit. But what we're choosing to do now is instead of selling it, we're going to keep it in our portfolio. Because we bought a fantastic property in an area that's great for sale, but it's also great for rental too. So typically here in Wales, we have got an abundance of 2 and 3 bedroom terraced houses born out of the Industrial Revolution and coal mining. These little towns were built everywhere, street after street after street of traditional build, freehold, wonderful little terraced houses that are ideal for flipping. They're also ideal for the rental market too. So we buy our house, we perform the refurb, we put the tenants in, then instead of selling it, we choose to refinance it, but at current market level, where that level should be for a 3-bedroomed, fully refurbished terraced house. So that is where we get the added value from. So in some cases, we can actually take all of the money out. Everything we put in, we take all of that back out again. So the property owes us absolutely nothing. Yes, we've got a mortgage on it, but the tenant paying rent will pay for your management, your maintenance, and your mortgage, the 3 M's. Your tenant will pay for those. So what you do is you put it away. And people say to me, oh, well, Ben, what sort of benefit would that be for me today? Unfortunately, guys, with the interest rates the way they are, and the way they are now is the way they probably will remain with a little bit of variation in them, it's not going to give you anything today. So why am I talking about it? It's not going to give you anything next week, next month, next year. The reason why I'm talking to you about this now is because if you leave it ticking away, it owes you nothing or very little if you left some money in there. It owes you nothing or very little. The tenant is paying for it. And guess what's happening, guys? What happens to property with time? Capital appreciation. The property is rising in value. Whereas today you've got a £150,000 terraced house that you're getting £900 a month in rent for. In 10 years' time, what's going to happen? Anyone hazard a guess? Yeah, it's going to double in value. It's going to be worth £300,000. So instead of having 25% equity in there, you're now going to have 125% equity in there. That's great. What does that mean for you, though? Well, great news is your rent is no longer £900 a month. It's now £1,800 a month. So instead of 50 or £100 a month cash flow, which I class as nothing, you're now going to have £1,000 a month cash flow. Now, just think about this. Imagine if you had replicated this 10 times. So you've got a little pot of money, or perhaps you're using cross-charge bridging. Love those 3 words, cross-charge bridging, remind me. You've got your pot or your cross-charge bridging. You buy a property. you refurbish it, you refinance it, you take your money back out of it, and you go again, and you replicate this, and you do this 10 times, and you forget about what you've then done because it's self-managing. You've got a property manager on board. They're looking after the property. Yes, you're spending a few minutes each month just checking statements, making sure that bills are paid, making sure the rent's coming in, making sure the mortgage is paid. Yes, a little bit of admin, but imagine replicating that 10 times. And in 10 years' time, all of a sudden, you've got how much? £10,000 a month in cash flow for a few minutes a month. A lot of people won't understand this. And the people that won't understand this, sadly, guys, you're people that live for the weekend. There's two types of people. Some people live for the weekend. Some people live for the next generation. So if you want to think ahead over the next 10, 20, 30 years, you want to think about your children, you want to think about your pension, you want to think about a nice, safe, cozy, wealthy retirement, you'll be thinking about this. If you're one of these people that just thinks about what you can do this weekend and just go out and get twatted in some bar somewhere, well, this is not going to work for you because it's not going to give you an income over the coming weeks. But if you're looking for the future, BRR is the way forward. A lot of people say you can't do it, it's past. Yes, with BRR, when interest rates were artificially low after the pandemic and Brexit and the credit crunch, we ended up with interest rates at 0.25%. Now, anyone will tell you, any economist will tell you, interest rates at that level are not sustainable. As we all know, it provided a very volatile economy and it pushed inflation out of control. What it did for people who were working the BRR scheme at that time, it gave them instant cash flow and all of their money back out. So it's like, woohoo, the best scheme ever. Now, today you can't get your penny and your bun. But what you can get is a fantastic investment vehicle for the future. How many of you are on pensions? If you're employed, you'll be on your standard employee's pension. You can contribute it to yourself. Some people choose private pensions. But in those pensions, you need to contribute to that pension, or your employer does, every single month, month in, month out. To add to that pension, you need to contribute to it. With the BRR scheme, once you've set it up, once you've bought, you've refurbished, you've refinanced, you've tenanted that property, you can leave it in the hands of the property manager and forget all about it. Come back to it in 10 years' time. Look where we are. Well, let's pull this one out of the drawer. Wow, that's doing well. That's doing well. That's doing well. A really, really good place to be. Just have a think for a second about where you could be in 10 years' time if you had a portfolio of 10 BRR properties. I can see the excitement building. Now, the type of properties that we look for, like I say, this was an example. This was actually, you got to excuse me, guys, I'm 48 now. I'm not going to get any younger. This was 22 School Street, New Tredegar, the Ugly Swan, and it turned into an absolutely fantastic, so the Ugly Duckling turned into an absolutely fantastic swan. A lot of people say to me, well, Ben, we like the idea of flipping properties because we can get instant cash flow. So within the next 6 to 8 months, you're looking at a cash flow turnover. You're looking at a lump sum. You know, it's a very, very profitable way. The only trouble is with flipping properties, and I love flipping properties, is once you've bought that property, you've done your work and you've profited, that's your opportunity gone. That house, you'll never see that house ever again. With BRR, you don't get anything today, but you get it for the future. So how about this? How about creating a business where you have a hybrid of both? So when we look for properties, and I come on to this now, sourcing the right properties for investment, the properties in my book must tick 2 boxes. They must be suitable for rental on a good yield, and they must be suitable for flip. So what we can do is we can look at our business model and say, right, in year 1, what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 flips. Then in year 2, we're going to ramp this up and do 3 or 4 flips. Now, in year 1, you've made a healthy profit and you've banked some serious money from doing 2 flips. In year 2, you're on course to do 4 flips. You may actually say, well, I tell you what, the 3rd or 4th property in year 2, I'm not going to flip it. I'm actually going to put it on the BRR. And because of the way we run the business model, in the fact that the property must be suitable for rental and for flip, we can do both of those things with that property. So we've not got to decide today. We could be halfway through the project and think, right, I sold the first 2, we've banked the profits, I'm doing well, the family holiday's paid for, we're all happy, I'm going to buy myself a new car, and I've still got change. So I tell you what, property number 3, I'm going to put that in the portfolio, push. That goes in the portfolio. It's not going to earn you anything today, don't forget, but it's in there for the future. So what you're actually doing is you're creating an instant income for yourself today, and you've got that retirement and pension income, that future for you, your family, a nest egg, for succession planning, that's there for you. So where do we find these properties? Have you guys been actively looking for properties, and where have you been looking? We can find good deals online. Now I'm talking about using the portals, Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market. Also, there's lots of other local portals and lots of other local social media. Now, what you need to do as well, which I go into in depth in the training, is you need to look at all routes to market. So we don't just look at Rightmove or Zoopla. We look at Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market. When we've looked at our target area, we've also got to look at the agents that are not on Rightmove. This is really important. People think, oh, well, every single agent's on Rightmove. No, they're not. How much do you think it costs an independent estate agent to be on Rightmove? Is it paid per property? Is it a monthly fee? Well, I can tell you at the moment, it's just over £2,000 a month. When we had Roberts Estate Agents, we had 10 branches, and our Rightmove, this is going back to 2019 now, our Rightmove bill used to fluctuate between £18,000 to £20,000 a month. So you can see now why quite a few small independent estate agents simply would like to be on there but can't afford it. So what we do is we go and we have a look which agents are on these major portals, because they're really easy to use. You set up automatic alerts so you see the new properties coming on. It's great. But we also need to be checking the website of those agents that are in our target area that are not on the major portals. Now, that's a huge advantage for us, because let me tell you something. If you've got an independent estate agent that's not on the major portals, but they'll tell you we've got a brilliant social media presence and we've got our own website, we're on Google AdWords, whatever excuse they give you, they're not on the major portals. Now, as a buyer, that's amazing. If they were selling my property, they wouldn't get my business. And that sounds a terrible thing to say, but it's true. Because if you are on the major portals, for example, Rightmove, it puts you into a major stratosphere. If you are just, for example, your local social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, TikTok, plus you're doing Google AdWords, you've got a website, that's a little bit like a pub band. It's like performing in a village hall or the local pub. As soon as you get onto Rightmove, you are in Wembley Stadium. That is how big your audience actually is. So when you're selling your properties, guys, always make sure that the agent selling them is on the major portals, because so many people that I know, when they're looking for a property, rightmove.co.uk is the only address they use. There could be a better property down the road that's cheaper with a different agent. They won't find it because that property is not on Rightmove. So when you're selling, always make sure your agent's on the major portal. When you're buying, it's fantastic, because don't forget, you've got a chance to meet the artist in person. When this pub band is performing, you can just reach over and shake their hand. When you're in Wembley Stadium, you've got all these guards in front of you. That is the difference. The less people in the rules of supply and demand, the less people that are applicants for that property, the greater the chances you'll win it at a more preferable price. So always check out the other agents in that area that are not on the major portals. You also want to go direct to vendor. Now, this is very difficult. A lot of people say to me, what is direct to vendor? Well, direct to vendor works in what I'd say the modern way and the traditional way. The traditional way of direct to vendor is leafleting. But this is very haphazard. People say to me, Ben, does leafleting areas work? And I say, well, yes and no. Very helpful, I know. Now, what that depends upon is where we are in the circle of the market. Now, the market is cyclical. It moves around. So we've got the highs, the lows, the booms, the busts. If, for example, you were to leaflet an area or put a Facebook ad, the modern way, Facebook ad campaign out in a really hot market, I can tell you now, you've wasted a load of paper and a load of shoe leather. Because everybody knows in a hot market, you can sell that property for over asking price the same day. Now, when the cycle moves and we're not in such a hot market, we're in a normal or perhaps even a depressed market, that is when your direct to vendor, your Facebook ads, your Google AdWords, your social media presence, that's when it's going to work. Because in a hot market, they're selling the property the same day for over asking price. And if that purchaser falls out of bed, they'll replace it tomorrow with somebody else, probably at a higher price. When you're in a slightly depressed market, whereby, for example, it's taking longer to sell properties and sales are falling through, people's mindset changes. So let's say you've inherited a house, and this house is nowhere near where you live. It was your great aunt's house. You went to see her once when you were 10 years old. And just by sheer fortune, you've been the beneficiary of her will. Now, you don't really know much about the area. You don't know much about the house. So in a good market, you put it on with an estate agent and they sell it for over asking price the same day. Bingo, you're as happy as Larry. If we're in a depressed market, you still need to sell great aunt's house, but it's going to be a little bit harder. So you're probably going to have to take a slightly lower offer and you're going to have to wait longer for the property to sell. But let's say, for example, you have a calamity of errors in there. The estate agent's not very proficient. They don't market it correctly. They get a sale, the sale falls through. All of a sudden, your leaflet drops through the door, WeBuyAnyHouse.com. You're like, wow, we've been messed around for the past 6 months. Let's give this guy a call. Now, if your property is sold for full asking price, that flyer would have gone in the bin with all the other kebab and Indian takeaway and dry cleaning, all the other crap that we get through our doors. That would have just gone with that right away. Whereas in a slightly depressed market, if the people are feeling a bit of suffering and a bit of pain, that social media presence, that media marketing, that Google AdWords, that leaflet dropping through the door is going to be far, far more effective. We can also use auctions. Now, auctions are great. Do you know what? I can't remember the last time we bought a property that was in auction. We buy from auction houses, but we buy before and after the auctions. I'll talk more about this further down the line, but this is really, really powerful. Auctions, as they are working today online, have a massive audience. You don't have to turn up to a hotel in Cardiff on a Tuesday night when it's raining, sleeting, hailing, and snowing and wait 3 hours for your lot to go through. You can sit by your villa pool in Spain, sipping on your cocktail, bidding on properties. What does that mean? Supply is still the same. Demand is far increased, so therefore the price has risen. So we buy properties before and after auction by forming relationships with the auction house, and that is so, so powerful. Finally, if you do want deals sourced directly for you, we have, like I say, through our investment consultancy, in-house deal sources. So if you just want a hands-off, hands-free investment, if you're too busy, we can sort that out for you. How do you know which areas or properties will give you good returns? Well, I've explained about the areas. Let's talk about the properties briefly now. What we want to be looking at is we want to be looking at the maximum return on investment. Now, naturally, if we buy a £1 million house and we put it out at a 20% return on investment, we're going to make £200,000. If we buy a £100,000 house, 20% return on investment would be £20,000. There's a massive difference, but we've only put 100 grand into that when we've not put £1 million. And our smaller house is going to sell far more quickly, and it's not going to be involved in a chain, which our £1 million house will be. So quite often, when we've looked at various different strategies and we've looked at different property types and styles over the year, a few basic facts come to remain. Let me give you these facts now, and I want you to think about them. Leasehold flats. You cannot buy a leasehold flat. You simply pay a premium for being able to rent that flat at a very low rent over a long period of time. Have a couple of seconds to think about that. You cannot buy a leasehold flat. People will tell you, I bought a leasehold flat. No, you haven't. You've paid a premium to rent that at a low rent over a long period of time. So what's the problem? First and foremost, you've got ground rent. And as soon as that leasehold flat falls below 80 years of remaining lease, you start to get the mortgage companies dropping off, the mortgage companies that will lend to you. You get to 50 years of a remaining lease and nobody will lend to you. So what does that mean? Well, it may not be a problem for you, but certainly it's going to be a problem for you if you try and sell it. You've got to extend the lease. You've got to pay a premium to extend the lease again. So ultimately, you're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Now, the second problem you've got with these leasehold flats is that you're normally subject to a service charge. Now, let's just say that you own a 2 or 3 bedroom terraced house, traditional construction, miners' cottage here in South Wales, beautiful, prime investment fodder. If that property requires maintenance, you have a choice. You can get as many tradespeople through the door as you want before you decide who you're going to use and what quote you will accept. So if, for example, you decide that you're going to put a new roof on this house, and the first roofer comes along and tells you it's 60,000 quid, you bat him straight out the door. The second one comes along and tells you it's 15 grand. The third one comes along and tells you it's 15 grand, but you actually like the guy, you're going to use him. With a leasehold flat, when maintenance is required, whether you pay this through the service charge, a slush fund, or they charge you directly, the control is taken out of your hands. So if they say the roof is going to cost 60 grand, you've got to pay £60,000. You don't have a second chance with secondary contractors. So as you can see, leasehold flats, I love flats, but if we control the freehold, and I'll come on to that again later in our training, so don't worry about that. Title splitting, 1 unit, multiple occupation flat, it's absolutely fantastic. It's so powerful, so value adding. But leasehold flats, be it if it's in a block of 3 or 4, if it's in a block of 100, from a property investment and development point of view, you do not want to be investing in these. Trust me. I invested in them pre-credit crunch. My father used to say to me, Ben, you're too highly geared and you're buying the wrong type of properties. Yeah, whatever. The credit crunch hit 2008. Guess what, guys? I bought the wrong properties and I was too highly geared. So leasehold flats. What we want to look at is what I was saying earlier. Street after street after street. Ideally price pointed 2 and 3 bedroom terraced houses. There's thousands of them. They were built for the workers during the Industrial Revolution and coal mining. They're everywhere. They're traditional build. Look how well they're built. The walls are a foot wide. If they are in good condition structurally, and I don't mean cosmetically, if they are fine structurally, they've been up for 100, maybe 150 years, they're going to be with us for the next 150 years. What we're building today, these new builds by major UK PLC corporations, they won't be there in 100 years. Trust me on that one. Well, you don't have to trust me because I'm not going to be here in 100 years, am I? But anyway, they won't be here in 100 years' time. But these miners' cottages will be. So you own the freehold, you own the land, you own the property. You have the choice of maintenance on these particular properties, and they are ideal for the rental market. They're going to give you a great yield. And also, you're going to be able to sell them out to first-time buyers and home movers, people who are not in a chain. Your first-time buyer comes along, they've got a mortgage agreement in principle in place. They've got their deposit funds and proof of it. They can buy that house and they can complete on it in 6 to 8 weeks' time. They are your ideal client for both rental and for flipping property. So they are ultimately the type of house that we want to be buying. So we want the right house in the right place at the right price. We can deal with price. We make our offer. If our offer is not accepted, we simply move on to the next one. Again, that comes in the training and how we price up the refurb, how we look and do our due diligence on end values. That's all in the training. But that's what we want to find. The right house in the right place at the right price. We know the places. I explained that earlier. It's got to be close to transport links. It's got to have good local amenities, a good feel for the area, and above all, a decent demographic. And ultimately, we want the right type of property. Like I said, we don't go for £1 million homes. We don't go for £500,000 homes. The rental yields on those properties are shockingly bad. Plus, it's going to take us a long time to sell. Yes, the profit margins are high, but we want to be obviously returning a profit margin on a flip, a return on investment between 20 and 25%. Any of the terms that I've used during this training, if you don't understand, we will be going through them at a later date. So I hope that's been useful so far. We've got the right property, the right place for the right price. We know what we're doing. We've got two different basic strategies that the other strategies all spawn from these. So if you're thinking about serviced accommodation, if you're thinking about HMOs, multi-let, they are all sprouts from this little tree that I've built today, which is the flipping and the BRR method on there. Funding is something that's very important. As I said earlier, it's one of the major things that people struggle with. Just have a think at the moment how you are going to fund your property journey. There's several different ways, guys. You can use your own money. You can use mortgages or finance, what I'd call institutional finance. So that's mortgages, bridging finance, development finance, and cross-charge bridging. You can use other people's money in the form of a loan from family, friends, or in your network, or you can do joint ventures. Now, so many people say to me, Ben, I'd love to get into property, but I simply don't have the money. I said, that's fine. If you've got the inclination, the drive and the desire and the tenacity to see this through, we can sort the rest out for you. And they say, well, how are you going to let, I said, no, I'm not going to lend you the money, but there's somebody in your network that gladly will lend you that money. There's so many people in your net. If you look at what your network, your friends, your family, your work colleagues, people you're in clubs and associations with, people you meet at the school gates, people you meet in the pub, the restaurant, people that friends of friends. There's so many people in your network, and you'd be amazed how many of these people have savings and they're not happy with the return they're getting on those savings. It's absolutely mental. Now, you've got to be able to present yourself in the right way to these people, be introduced correctly, and introduce to them the opportunity of investing with you. Because if they can get a better return and they know it's secure, and that's really important, they've got to know it's secure. If they can get a better return and they know it's secure, they'll be happy to invest with you. At the moment, you're looking at me thinking, no, there's no one in my network. Wrong. There is people in your network. People that will lend you the money or people that will do joint ventures, as long as you provide a good return and it's secure. In 2018, I flipped 13 individual properties with not a single penny of my own money. Now, how did I do that? People say to me, how on earth did you do 13 properties? It's quite easy. When you've got a joint venture partner with £1.5 million in the company business account, you can flip 13 properties. You can buy them. The system will then sort out what you do with them, and you end up with probably one of the most productive years ever. Now, how did I raise that? Like I say, I left school with no qualifications. This guy was not associated to me, my family, or anyone else. He was somebody in the network that I met. We trialed 2 properties in 2017, and in 2018, he deposited £1.5 million into the company bank account, and we did 13 flip projects. Now, had somebody told me this, that I'd be capable of that in 2016, 2014, whatever the case was, I would have seriously doubted them, like you're probably doubting me right now. But trust me, with a good bit of training and a way to speak to people and a way to present to people, you'll bring these people out of their shell and they'll want to invest with you. So don't worry, if you haven't got the money, you're scared of bridging finance, cross-charge bridging, you don't want to take out a mortgage, you haven't got your own, whatever the case is, there's going to be a system and a scenario for you. So if you come on board with the training, we will teach you exactly how to find the money you need, not only to start your business, but also to scale it. Because once you've done a few projects, all of those Downton Thomases that wouldn't lend you the money are going to be tripping over themselves to lend you the money, because instead of getting a 4% or 5% return from their bank, they'll be getting a 20% return from you. And you will have an amazingly successful business off the back of that. I can say that because I've done it, guys. I'm not talking blind. I have walked in your shoes with doubt, and it worked for me. So I want you to take that on board. I want you to think about people in your network now who you could possibly approach in the right way. And I'll teach you how to do it the right way. You don't offend. It's a very British thing. We can't talk about money. No, I'll show you the right way to do it. Are you ready? As Elton John said. Who are you? What are your key skills? what do you need assistance in, and what are your goals? Now, guys, with a bit of assistance from us here, and there's various different programs that we run. We run one-to-one mentorship. We're just about over the coming weeks to launch some really exciting online training as well. In the next 12 months, you could become part of our amazing community. Now, I know you're all enjoying the school community, which is fantastic. You're rubbing shoulders with like-minded people. You're expressing ideas. But to be part of a community is really important in property. So many people that I've helped achieve their goals and dreams in property were surrounded by negativity. Now, it's quite often the people that love you the most are going to be the most resistant towards it because they don't understand it themselves. They've only heard negativity about property. They've not seen the people that have made fantastic businesses. So when you tell them you're going into property, they're like, oh, it's a bit dodgy, it's a bit dangerous. I've heard stories about this. I've seen news reviews. They're the wrong people to be hanging around with because ultimately they will put you off. They'll put all the negative fear into your mind and you'll never move forward. You need to be hanging out with people who are successful in property because they'll bring your spirits up, they'll lift you up, and they'll also help you. What I love about our community is there's a massive sense of help towards anyone else. And I'll gladly help any of you guys out. If you've got a question for me, and if you say to me, Ben, I'm thinking of doing this, I'll say to you, that's a terrible idea, don't do it. But I'll always try and put you on the right path. You need to be surrounding yourself with like-minded, positive people who are moving forward in property. You can start your own property business. You can build your own property portfolio. So whether you're flipping properties, whether you're building a portfolio, or the hybrid of both, you can start doing that. You obviously make some lifelong friends in this group because you're on the same pathway. You know, you've got the same outlook. You share the same vision and views as many other people. Turn your vision into reality and begin your journey towards financial freedom to create that life that you want. And you can do it. I have the perfect life. I love my life. This is my hobby. I enjoy it so much. What is stopping you? Now, there's several things that stop people. It's the fear. It's the confidence. It's the lack of knowledge, lack of funding, lack of... Don't worry about that. Every multimillionaire property investor had to start somewhere. Everybody had a day one, and everybody had the fears. Everybody questioned their confidence. Everybody questioned their knowledge. Everybody didn't have the money, the skills. Don't worry about that. That will come through the training platform. We've got 25 years plus property knowledge experience. We've got the one-to-one mentorship program. We've got a like-minded community of investors. We've got networking opportunities where you can discuss ideas. You can even form joint venture partnerships with people that will be mutually beneficial for you all. You've got access to my network of professionals. Now, this is really important. If you need a structural engineer, an accountant, a solicitor, a tax advisor, to name but probably a few out of 100 different trades, 100 different professional services, we've got them. Tradespeople. Now, I can't provide tradespeople outside the South East Wales region, but in this region, I can provide virtually every single property trade. Ben, I need a reliable roofer. I need a painter decorator, a carpenter, an electrician, a plumber, a heating engineer, you name it. We've got them for you. This is where it becomes really exciting. We can also offer you trade prices on refurbishments and supplies. Would it shock you if I told you about a recent deal that I've done with Magnet? Now, we all know Magnet, kitchen suppliers. Quite prickly at times. Hope they don't watch this and rebuke my deal now, but quite prickly at times. But Magnet have two levels. They have the retail, which is the nice, glossy, shiny showroom. You go and you have coffee, and you end up paying a fortune for your kitchen. You then have the trade that's like a realistic kind of price, and that's for trade only. I can show you, and if you want to ask me afterwards, I'll show you the document. I get up to 85% off Magnet's trade price. So a £4,000 trade price kitchen is going to end up costing you less than 1,800 quid, including VAT. Carpets, we've got major deals. I can supply carpets, underlay, fitting, gripper, door bars, vinyl for the bathroom and kitchen. I thought really nice quality, high quality vinyl. I can do all of that in a 3-bedroom terraced house for less than 1,500 quid. These are the deals that we've negotiated, that by becoming part of our community, you will have the availability of these as well. We're also launching a full interactive training program via video. You've got access to all our theoretical resources and expert guidance in starting your own business, including the introduction to professionals you might need, such as accountants, solicitors, etc. That's all available to you, plus much, much more. So guys, on that note, I hope you found the introduction to property interesting. I hope you've enjoyed our session here.